What's going on, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today's review, we're going to take a look at a couple of figures in the Zombie Labs lineup. We've got Debbie on the left, we've got Ethan in the middle, and then Ryan on the right. These were my first three that I picked up from Zombie Lab. I actually picked this up off of eBay. Got a really good deal on all three. Only paid about $45 for all three, which is pretty darn good price. I don't think you could find a price like that anywhere else. But these were previously owned. They were previously taken out of the package, so I think that's why the seller dropped the price significantly. Anyway, this is very similar to Vitruvian Hacks. I'm pretty sure that as far as the bodies go, the body types are very similar to Hacks, or if not the same. This is just a kind of like the unofficial Walking Dead 3 3/4 inch line. They do range a little bit taller, and I noticed that they are technically 1/18 scale, but they do run a little bit on the larger side as far as that's concerned. We'll get to size comparisons and all of that with multiple different lines, with Marauders, your vintage G.I. Joes, your modern G.I. Joes, all of that stuff, in case you just wanted to get a good sense of scale, because I've seen a lot of these Zombie Lab reviews and no one really puts the comparisons there, so you can really get an idea of how close they are as far as with Joes and such. Okay, so first up here is Debbie. She's pretty cool looking. Obviously, she is an African-American lady, which I dig very much. Thank you for the variety, Zombie Labs. There's a plenty of variety in this line when it comes to different races. So I really dig that quite a bit. Moving her to the side just for a second. Here is her packaging really quick. Pretty simple, resealable, collector-friendly packaging. It says Debbie up top, and it has a picture. We'll get to the bios and all of that in a second. It has a picture of Debbie on the bottom right there, and a very scared face right there, which is pretty funny. You've got some of the other figures that are available in the wave, which is, I believe that's Zombie wait, what does that say? Come on, focus. Zombie 007. Then we have Debbie, then we have Jaina, and then Duncan, Ryan, Zombie 008, and then Zombie 009. So I do have some more of these figures on the way. Why is this not focusing today? There we go. I do have some other figures from this line on the way, but I just wanted to kind of touch on these three right away. This is from Locker Toys. It says it's distributed by them, which is based in Hong Kong. It says made in China, and then it says adult collectible ages 15 and up. Series 1, Wave 6. Okay, next up we've got her bio card. It says Wave 6 Debbie right there, so it does keep you in tune with how deep into the waves you are. And there's a nice photo of her in a very scared look. Looks like she's in a kitchen with a butcher knife. So, and then on the back, here is her read-up. If you'd like to pause that and read it, you can. Go ahead. Okay, and we're back with Debbie. She looks pretty cool. She's obviously got a lot of skin showing. I don't know if that would be the most tactical way of handling the zombie apocalypse. But if it were me, I would be grabbing like leather coats and probably some sort of thick jean to wear. I don't know if I'd be going around wearing shorts and a tank top, but obviously. Here's the back of Debbie. Looks pretty cool. She's got some tall socks with some looks like to be almost like combat, or not combat, but almost like work shoes or dress shoes or something, which is a very odd choice for her. Surprised she's not wearing like sneakers or something. But the face sculpt looks pretty cool. The eyes are pretty well done. Don't have any issues with the eyeballs or anything like that. She does come with this lead pipe. She does come with a display base, which you can remove her from. Here is the display base. Pretty nicely done. Looks like a manhole cover right there, I think. Got some holes right here and here and here. And then you have the 2 pegs right there. So pretty cool. Next up, as far as accessories go, she comes with this nice little plumber's wrench right here. It does have some blood spackling going on to the top of the wrench. Right here, over here, onto the teeth of the wrench. Looks really good. So very nicely done with the wrench. Okay, next up we've got her hatchet here, and this looks like kind of like a tactical hatchet, as opposed to what she's shown with in her biopic, which is more of like a butcher knife. Or not a butcher knife, but a hatchet, a butcher hatchet. But this looks pretty cool. It's got a little bit of blood right here. I could definitely see maybe someone like Shadow Tracker using something like this. Or maybe Spirit. If you want to go with a more Pursuit of Cobra Spirit. Maybe it's got a little bit of blood on there too. It also is used, the blood effect goes beyond just the blade portion on the side of the hatchet as well. But looks very tactical. Okay, last up here is the pipe. The metal pipe, I should just say. I should just call it, not lead. Maybe just, maybe lead. But anyway, here's the pipe. Regardless, you have blood paint apps going from about halfway up the pipe all the way around to the curvature. So she's been meleeing some zombies. She's been putting this pipe to work. You can see some denting and such going throughout the pipe as well. Looks really good. Very well done. Now you got some, what looks to be some threading on that side. Pretty cool. Okay, and really quick, I just want to do this quick little shot of her just kind of holding all of the weapons. You already saw her with the lead pipe, and now this is her dual wielding with the hatchet and the wrench. Okay, as far as her articulation does go, her head can still do a full 360 rotation. It can look up very nicely. Good, really good range of motion on looking up. Much better than G.I. Joe. I wish G.I. Joe's or Marauders Task Force could actually get this range of motion. Her head did pop off, but it's no big deal. You can just pop that sucker back on there. Makes the figures more interchangeable when you have that. But that range of motion, that is perfect sniper range of motion right there. Maybe a little bit more would work even better for Marauders and such. But that's the benefit of having the ball peg attached to the head as opposed to having a ball peg neck. You get better range of motion with that. And then looking down, she gets great range of motion looking down as well. So very well done with that as far as that's concerned. And then she pivots side to side. Great job. Let's see if she's got some job turkeys. A little gobble. Little gobble. Arms go up. The arms go down. Full 360 rotation. She's got a single bend. Oh, her hand popped off. But she does have a single bend at the elbow. She has a swivel at the elbow. Let me get her hand back in there. Sorry about that. She has a swivel at the wrist. And then she does have a hinge joint, which is not painted, just to point that out. That does kind of bug me a little bit, but I don't think it's the end of the world. First world problems. She does have a really good ab crunch, which you do see some gappage issue there, just to point that out. And then she can crunch forward, like so. She can swivel also, and she can pivot side to side. So really good range of motion and articulation as far as that diaphragm joint. It's probably one of the better diaphragm joints I've seen. She can do the splits about that far. And her leg does go forward. There's a little bit of a gap issue, just a natural gap in her thighs for some reason. I think that's just due to the articulation points. It's just a weird sculpting piece, part of the leg. I initially thought that the legs were coming apart, but it's actually just the sculpt of the inner thigh. So her inner thigh, maybe she's got like some sort of like stretchy pants or something like that, where the the inside is like a stretchier material. I don't know. I'm making things up as I go along here. Legs go forward. Legs don't go really that far back due to the sculpting of the rear end. And then no upper thigh swivel or anything like that. She does have a double jointed knee, which, ooh, that leg is the pin. I'm going to have to fix that pin. I can go ahead and fix that. It's not a big deal, but I'll have to do it after the review. There we go with that. Some of these pins are very close to the edge of the leg. Let me get in here. I'm sorry. You see how that's kind of like rubbing? There's a lot of friction right there. Yee, that has me worried a little bit. Just due to, let me get my pointer out really quick. Just due to this, eventually maybe if you put too much pressure on that, it could pop, make a little crack in the crevice right there, and then I think your knee is pretty much screwed. Maybe you could possibly turn her into a zombie down the road, but this pin is not all the way through. That's not the end of the world. I can fix that. But these are things I have to point out for the sake of the review. It is worrisome as far as I'm concerned, as far as longevity for the figure, but it's definitely something to point out just so you know. So buyer beware of your knee joints or your thighs as well. She can point the toe nicely. The sock is not fully painted. That still does kind of bother me a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. She can point the heel, and she does have that kind of Marvel Legends style ankle pivot, and then 2 peg holes at the bottom of her feet. Okay, as far as sculpt and paint detail go, she's pretty simplistic when it comes to that. There's not a whole lot going on with her. She just kind of has like a sculpted tank top right here, and the upper torso piece. This tank top is sculpted. It's not just painted on cheaply like maybe something like a Hasbro might do. It is sculpted on there, and you can actually see there's a little bit of line work missed from the sculpt right here. So you do know it's a sculpt. The bottom of the torso is sculpted as well. The shorts are sculpted. So very nicely done with the sculpt. Some of the paint is will leave you a little bit wanting, but overall, I think the sculpt is nice for her design, even though it's very, very simple. The face sculpt, I think, is a very nicely done face sculpt. I like the hairstyle too. It looks pretty cool. Nice little short-haired design for her. Like I said, the eyes are pretty well done. She's not googly-eyed. She's not crazy-eyed. She's not wide-eyed. She's just kind of neutral, which I like it. Okay, next up we've got Ryan, and he is also a part of Wave 6. Nice artwork here for Ryan, and obviously, you know, this looks very similar to Glenn from The Walking Dead, so you can make that observation. It's pretty obvious right here. But yeah, it says help on the left side there of him, and then he's got he's dual wielding a knife and that kind of tactical hatchet that came with Debbie as well. Flipping it around to the back, here's his read up. You can pause that and read. Let me just get the correct lighting here. There we go. Beautiful. You can pause that and read it if you so choose. Okay, and here is Glenn. Ryan. Yeah. For those of you big Walking Dead fans, I'm not really the biggest Walking Dead fan. I kind of gave up after season 4 when it was kind of getting repetitious. So those of you who really like The Walking Dead, you could pick up this Ryan figure and call him Glenn and put him with the rest of your McFarlane figures, since these are much superior to the McFarlane ones, which tend to fall apart. I'm going to be honest with you. But anyway, regardless of that, I digress. We do have some markings. There's like a marking on his hand, and there was a marking on her leg. And I think that these markings right here, sorry for the, I think that one is sculpted onto his hand, or painted onto his hand, where the one on her leg kind of fell off. Not sure if those were stickers or of some sort. Maybe I'm missing something. Like I said, I did buy these used, so I apologize if I'm missing any pieces or anything like that. But yeah, his face sculpt looks pretty good. The accessories that he comes with, here is his hatchet. I'll just kind of leave it in his hand instead of going through the separate segments there. This is more of what Debbie was holding, was that kind of like butcher carver, or butcher hatchet, I should say, where he's supposed to have the tactical hatchet. Maybe I'll swap the two and give Debbie the this one, and then give Ryan the tactical one. But still looks good nonetheless. I really like this very unique looking Almost looks like a machete, like a tactical machete of some sort. But it looks pretty cool nonetheless. You've got some kind of, almost looks like dirt and blood mixed in there together. So pretty cool, very unique with the design. Obviously, this figure has much more sculpting than Debbie did because he's got a lot more going on for him. But that's not the end of his accessories. He does come with the same display base that Debbie did. Not going to dive too much into that because it's exactly the same. Here's the last accessory that he does come with. He comes with a putter, which is pretty, or actually it might be a wedge. I don't know. I'm not a golf nut, so I don't know. It's a golf club, regardless. But it does have some blood going all the way up the shaft there, all the way up to the putter portion, or the wedge, or whatever you want to call it. Looks pretty cool. Very nicely done. I don't know how long a putter would last. A golf club would last trying to beat the crap out of a. I would think that they would tend to bend quite a bit. Okay, as far as Ryan's articulation goes, he can swivel his head. You can force it to do a full 360 rotation if that's what you really want. Maybe you want to have him as the undead and you can have his head backwards. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But he can do it. He can look up about that far. That's about maxed out due to the sculpting of his hair and the back of this vest right here. Head looks down. Can pivot side to side. See if he's got some jive turkey. Little jive turkey right there. The arm did pop off, which is not a big deal. A lot of these are modular, so don't worry if your arm pops off. You can pop it right back in. Same thing with the hands and the forearms and anything else. The arms go up about that far. They go down. Full 360 rotation in the arm. A single bend at the elbow right there. A swivel at the elbow. A swivel at the wrist. And he does have a hinge joint which goes up and down like so. So very similar to Marauders as far as that's concerned, and it does mirror on the other side. He does have a diaphragm joint, very similar to Debbie, but it's a little bit different. Really good range of motion going side to side. Crunches back nicely, crunches forward nicely. And like I said, you can swivel. You can do the splits, very good. Very nicely done. Legs go forward. Legs go back a little bit. Double jointed knees. It does have an ankle swivel. You can point the heel a little bit, and then you can point the toe a little bit. Not too much because due to the sculpting of the pant legs. So, not the end of the world. Pretty good articulation overall for a 1/18 scale figure. I like the different style of range of motion with him. It's obviously very Vitruvian Hacks style articulation, which I dig. I dig the variety that we have between Marauders and Vitruvian Hacks, so I like this as well. As far as the sculpting and detail go, just getting a look at his head, getting in close on his head here. If we'll focus. Okay, there we go. Just getting a close-up on his head. The head looks pretty good. He is kind of looking a little bit on the upward side. Not a big deal, just kind of pointing it out. His eyebrow is doing something weird. I think it's like a little bit of a paint defect or a sculpt defect. Not the end of the world for me, but, you know, just my luck. Whenever I have an issue with a figure, it's always on the face. He's got a little bit of a mole right there on his nose, which that's what I'm going to use that as. Sculpting of the hair looks pretty cool. Very nicely done with the sculpt of the hair, the ears. The paint, for the most part, is pretty good. I'm always impressed when we have crisp and clean paint on a 1/18 scale figure, seeing as the paint apps would be a little bit more difficult to get on a smaller area. So, pretty good with the hair. The vest is really cool, very Han Solo-esque vest, if I may point that out, if I may say so. But looks pretty good nonetheless. I really dig that. There's the back, very leather-esque looking vest. And then we have the shirt underneath. It's kind of like a Carhartt style shirt, a heavy-duty style shirt. As far as the pants go, he's kind of got like some brown pants with some black paint shading going throughout the pants for some dirt and grime look. You do have a little bit of like almost like a bite mark or maybe like an open wound right there or maybe just ripped pants. I mean, whatever you want to use your imagination for, but it does look like he's got a little bit of battle damage to him. So, moving on to the feet, he's got some nice work boots for that. I like the different tones. They could have just went with one tone for the boot, and they didn't. I like that. 2 peg holes, and that's pretty much it. So as far as articulation, sculpt, paint, detail, I think he's pretty solid. I think everything looks really good on him. Very pleased. The eyes could be a little bit more centered and a little bit more neutral, but I'm not going to really take away points for that. It's not the end of the world, even with his little mole right there on his nose. Actually brings a little bit more life to the character. So overall, really good job. Okay, and last up, we've got the Kickstarter exclusive Ethan. There's a regular version of him with just different paint apps, and then there's this Kickstarter exclusive, him dual wielding. He's got this big old kind of like custom machete, which we'll get to. And he comes with like a wrench and a couple other things, which I'll show in a second. But nice card artwork for Ethan. Looks pretty cool. Flipping it around to the back, here is his little read-up. If you want to pause that and read it, you can. Okay, and here's Ethan, the Kickstarter exclusive Ethan, and he looks pretty cool. Very nicely done with all of the blood paint and all of that. And very nicely done with the head sculpt. I think the head sculpt looks pretty cool. I like that with each head sculpt, it's not just kind of like a different facial hair with the same face or something like that. We each get a specific character for each one, and they all differentiate from each other. So I really like that quite a bit. He's got kind of like a thermal shirt on, and then he's got that, I believe it's the same vest as I think that Han Solo vest that Ryan had that we just talked about. But he does come with a wrench, this really cool knife, which is probably what I'm going to have him displayed with, and then he does come with a gun. Now, the gun is very interesting because this gun tends to look like a clone trooper gun, almost. It's very strange, very futuristic looking, but it does look very similar to I think they're called like the DC-15 pistols. Or maybe they're DC-17. It's one of the two. Sorry if it slipped my memory, but it does look very futuristic looking. So that is a very odd choice for a gun. I'm surprised they didn't go with just something regular, but pretty cool nonetheless. I guess you could add that to his backstory. Maybe he's got a prototype weapon that, I don't know, maybe targets headshots easier. I don't know. But here is his, actually we'll get to the wrench first. Here is his wrench, pretty similar to the one I showed earlier, so I'm not going to touch on it too long, but there you go with the wrench. A little bit of blood on the top portion and in the teeth of the wrench, so that looks very nicely done as far as that's concerned. And then over here for his knife, or his machete I should say, it looks kind of like he built this machete, which is pretty cool. Maybe he's like your homegrown version of a weaponsmith, where he just kind of took a sheet of metal and sharpened it and then wrapped it. But it looks pretty cool nonetheless. Very unique for the character, and this is probably going to be his go-to weapon as far as I'm concerned. But I really do like that, and for me personally, if I was in the zombie apocalypse, I would definitely want to have some melee weapons with me, because you can always run out of bullets with any type of gun, but when it comes to a melee weapon, they never run out of bullets, so you don't have to worry about that. Maybe you have to worry about them breaking, but I really like this figure quite a bit. I'm kind of wish that I got the regular version of him too, but not bad at all as far as display purposes go, or as playability. You can also swap out arms and torsos and such with other of the male characters as well. The face sculpt looks really cool. Very nicely done with the blood splatter going throughout all of his shirt, his sleeves, the chest, the lower torso, the face. Very nicely done with that. No blood splatter on the back, so it's mostly just him probably meleeing away, or maybe he's doing some headshots and get some back blast from the blood mist or something like that. And then here's the legs. We do have some blood on the thigh going down to the knee and to the shin on both legs. No blood on the shoes, though. He kept those shoes pretty darn clean. So, as far as his articulation does go, he can do a full 360 at the head. He can look back very nicely, or up, excuse me, very nicely. Down, he can pivot side to side. He's got some... Oh my God, look at the turkeys! Okay, so enough of that. The arms go up, way up. Very good range of motion with the arm. It does kind of have like a ratchet pivot to it a little bit. But they can do a full 360. I would kind of, when it is a little bit stiff moving this, it's kind of like there's a ratchet right there, a ratchet pop, and then a ratchet pop up there. I would kind of hold this in so that you're not putting too much pressure on the peg going into the arm, and then rotate it, and then rotate it, or push in on that, just so, you know, you're not putting too much pressure on that pin and causing it to snap eventually. But there's a single bend at the elbow, less than 90 degrees. He does a swivel at the elbow as well. There's him fully extended, and you can get him fully straight right there. Swivel at the wrist, hinge joint, which goes up and down, and it does mirror on this side as well. Crunch back with a little bit of gappage, crunch forward, pivot side to side, swivel. Can do the splits even with the gun belt on. Legs go forward, don't really go back. Double jointed knee, foot fell out. Oh man, that was really tight. Double jointed knee. I did force that a little bit. I'm kind of wishing I didn't, but everything's fine. So, and he does have a swivel at the foot. Foot can go forward. He can point the toe, actually nicer than Ryan can, which I might actually try and maybe loosen up that Ryan's ankles with some heat. Maybe that'll help that situation since he can pivot a little bit more. And then he does have a swivel and a little bit of a pivot side to side, and then 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. So pretty good range of motion articulation when it comes to Ethan and all the figures overall. Okay, starting off with the size comparisons, we'll do the males first, and then we'll move on to the females. As far as that's concerned with the males, there's a Pursuit of Cobra Duke right here, and this is I believe the Desert Assault Duke from Pursuit of Cobra. One of my favorite Duke figures, by the way. And I want to say that they're pretty close in scale. Ethan's a little bit taller and a little bit bulkier. But as far as a Joe from 2010 and a brand new Kickstarter-esque figure, I think they scale pretty well together still. Maybe Duke's a little bit on the shorter side and Ethan's a little bit taller. It's not a big deal. But I think they scale well together. Okay, next up, for variety's sake, here's a vintage G.I. Joe next to Ethan, and you know, I guess they can kind of scale well together. Okay, next up we've got a female Marauder body next to Ethan, and I think they scale well together very nicely, actually. They're around the same height, I want to say, with the helmet off. I think Ethan's a hair, might be about even as far as that's concerned, but very good scale with Marauders. Okay, next up we've got Boomstick. This is one of my characters, and this is my character in Fenris Company. And so there is Boomstick. So you can see the male Marauders bodies were, I think, perfect with scale with the Zombie Lab figures. Okay, and next up, in case you were curious about the Marauders dogs, I think they scale well with the Zombie Lab figures as well. So there you go with the scale for the dogs. Okay, next up we've got Wraith from the 25th anniversary figure, just to kind of give you some variety as far as what 25th anniversary figures stack up. There's a little bit of difference between Pursuit of Cobra and the 25th, so just wanted to show that as well in case anyone's curious. And yes, I know I cut the tubes off of Wraith over there for purpose. Okay, and next up we've got the Hiya Toys Predator, and I think they They also match up pretty well with the Hyatt Toys figures. Okay, next up we've got the Vitruvian Hacks Spartan Warrior next to Ethan, and they stack up well together. Okay, and bringing in Debbie, we'll do the same comparisons here. Here's the Spartan Warrior. There's the Predator. Male Marauders. Female Marauder. Vintage Joe. Marauder Dogs. G.I. Joe 25th Anniversary. And G.I. Joe Pursuit of Cobra. Okay, so for my final thoughts for the Zombie Labs figures, the only things that kind of bugged me about the figures were some of the hands on Debbie. Both her hands kind of want to pop out a little bit more. You can actually see it with the pose I have. You do kind of have to adjust her. The male figures I noticed are a little bit more tighter with joints. Obviously, I pointed out the knee issues that she kind of has. Maybe they'll rectify that in future waves. But as far as that's concerned, I don't really have too many issues with the quality control as far as that's concerned. I like the face sculpts. I like the paint detail. I love the articulation. I love that they're modular. And if you're on the fence with these, I would say give them a try, give them a go, and see if you like Vitruvian Hacks and you like Marauder-style figures. I think you'll enjoy these as well, especially if you're a Walking Dead fan. I think you'll enjoy these quite a bit. And but yeah, that's pretty much it for me as far as the how many thumbs will I give? I will give 2 undead thumbs up. So there you go, 2 zombie thumbs up. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.